All right, Luke. Mandalay Resources, it's up 50% on not a huge volume for this stock. I mean, it's 0.3% of its market cap, but it's adding what, $65 million to its market cap, $65 million of valuation in like a couple of days, 4 days. And there's absolutely no news you see on here. How's this even possible? What's going on?
Yeah, I didn't really follow the market this week because I was in Beaver Creek, and while talking to many companies, I didn't have time to really watch all the stocks move. And so when I pulled the list, I saw that the miners did well this week, but Mandalay did especially well. And if you look at the chart in the last 12 months, like most miners, it has been a very nice or not so nice from left to the left top to the right bottom type hole, type ski hill, and suddenly on relatively high volume. I mean, it's not very high volume, of course, because they add 65 million in market cap on only $700,000 of volume. But still, if you compare it to the complete year, there's an obvious 4-day buying spree, and the stock really, literally went straight up. I don't know what it is, but I think if we speak next week, perhaps in 2 weeks, that there will be something. This is a little bit too much not to mean anything. Could it be a takeover? This is a pretty cheap producer with 2 projects, one in Australia, one in Sweden, I believe. Or are they drilling and are they hitting some Fosterville type holes because they are close to Fosterville? Mandalay has even higher grades sometimes, but over very small widths. I really don't know, but it was a very obvious mover, but without obvious news. So that's why I highlighted it, and I think it will be fun to have a look next week and see if there was anything behind it.
Were they at Beaver Creek?
I don't know. Good question. Maybe I should have checked that. I don't know.
Maybe they were, and there's a leak happening there, which obviously would be illegal.
Well, leaks and rumors happen all the time. I mean, especially rumors, and rumors can be true or cannot be true. I've heard many things that may or may not happen. In the past, I've heard many things about takeovers and stuff that never happened. So sometimes companies may intentionally, create some rumors. Sometimes you are the third or fourth person, so you don't know what the origin is. I have no idea. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to. A conference is not necessarily the reason behind these things. These things happen also without any conference. Especially if you have drill results. I mean, how many people know about results? The drillers will see it. The assay lab will see it. The CEO will know about it. The exploration manager will know about it. They have friends. They have, you never know where such a thing leaks if it's about drill results. But this is a producing company, so it could also be takeover related. It could be a complete coincidence. So it's really speculating. I don't want to accuse them of anything, but it's a very obvious, a very interesting move. And next week we'll have a specific look at this company to see if they came up with something new or not. But I suspect we will see something.
It's absolutely wild to me. This whole industry is just absolutely wild to me.
Yeah, I mean that it also makes it interesting, right? I mean, I don't want to say that it's a good thing, but stocks go down 80%. You could say for no reason because gold is pretty stable. Gold is not in a bad spot, and all these gold companies went down between 50 and 90%. Maybe their profit margins went down. So it's not fair to say for no reason, but maybe they went down more than they should have. And sometimes on very little liquidity, they can also jump up again. Sometimes because of a bear market, sometimes or a bull market, sometimes because of news, and sometimes because of a rumor. So if you bought a stock a year or 2 ago, you're still sitting on the loss. But yeah, it is obvious that in 4 days' time, the stock went up by $65 million. And for a company like this, that's pretty significant.
Okay, what else you have?
Yeah, we talked about the drill hole last year, the discovery hole. Then they announced 4 new holes that looked similar. They said in the news release they didn't provide a complete core box picture, so it's you have to believe the company in that it looks similar. Stock went up from 7 or 6 cents to 12 to 14. Announced the financing at 12, and now suddenly it's trading at 19 cents. Talking about rumors, I I heard a rumor this week that a newsletter started covering this company, so that could also be part of the reason. But also before this week, it was pretty strong. Within days, I think, maybe weeks, but I think days, we should see the assays from the 4 holes they drilled as a follow-up to last year's hole. 112 meters of 1.7 grams gold, very close to the El Salvador mine. I talked to Mirasol in Beaver Creek, and Mirasol is also active in Chile, and they had market caps like 50 million, 100 million, based on prospective land in Chile and Argentina, and they were surprised by San Lorenzo because this is something they have been looking for as well. It's just that Mirasol is a well-known company, and they have well-known backers, and it was a very hot story 10 years ago or 8 years ago, but it's still a quality company. And San Lorenzo is most people never heard about the company until very recently, and you can see that the stock went up from 5-6 cents to now 19 cents. And disclaimer, I own it. I bought it last year at 6 cents when they announced this initial hole, and I averaged a little bit down, I think, even during the year. And when they came up with these 4 visuals, or these 4 holes, I bought more at 7 cents, I think. So I own a pretty good chunk of San Lorenzo, which is important to mention. Expectations. This stock will either, I think, go right back where it started, or perhaps come up with some good news assays, and in that case it's a really cheap stock still. It's still a $14 million company. If it's a real discovery, it could be much more. Let's leave it with that.
Well, we talked about hope last time and stuff running on hope. This has ran quite a lot from its $3.2 million market cap. It's almost 5x.
Yeah.
Is that sustained, or is there part of it is based on hope?
Well, I think even if these 4 holes come back with disappointing, and it's difficult to, what is disappointing? Is a similar hole like last year? It's probably, if you have 4 holes with 100 meters of 1.7 grams gold, I think that would be the start of, building a deposit. Is that grade going to work at that depth? So ideally higher grade over similar widths, that would be good news. If it's suddenly 50 meters at 0.5 grams, if that's the best hole of the 4, then it's disappointing. Maybe because now some people know San Lorenzo, and people may have seen other news releases. They also have another project called Arco de Oro, and they have drilled 6 meters of 16 grams last year. It's a very different discovery, very close to this Salvador project, within the sort of same claim block. But they have 2 discoveries, actually 3 discoveries. So maybe it will not go back to 5 cents, but if the drill results disappoint, it will probably go down 50% at least, maybe to 10 cents, 9 cents. I cannot, of course, predict that, but indeed, expectations are increasing right now. So results are going to be crucial. I own it because I really think this could be a big discovery. And sometimes you want to bet. If you always sell the double, which is a safe route, then you will never really make a fortune. And sometimes you have to bet. And in most cases, it will not work out. But in this case, I am taking the risk and wait for the assays. And if they are good, I will probably keep my stock, hoping for the thing to grow bigger.
Okay. Fair enough. Radius has also been making some moves. What's happening with them? 40%?
Yeah, we'll keep it short with Radius. I think we discussed it a little bit before as well, but they started drilling. What I always find interesting is when a company announces we are commencing drilling, you never know if that's on the date of the news release, or are the drills already turning for a week or 1.5 or 2 weeks. Companies in Canada are a little bit flexible with that. I don't know. I mean, Radius was in Beaver Creek. I didn't talk to them, but they have a pretty exciting target. which is a real long shot. It's close to max silver. It's close to the complete Fresnillo silver belt, and they think they may have some. They have a target that could be a max silver type. Let's just keep it with max silver type target. Let's not talk about deposits yet, and they're testing it. And if they hit some economic rates, then it could very quickly, of course, get popular because they are in the right belt. But they could also just drill and almost get 0 grams silver, and then of course the same thing like we just discussed with San Lorenzo, it could go back very quickly. But it's interesting to me that the stock is strong because the financing, which I also participated in, again disclaimer, is coming free trading, and most of the times the stock is weak towards the free trading days. In this case, it's strong. So is it promotion? We'll have to see soon. It's a little bit like the same story. That's why I don't want to speculate too much right now. But it is interesting that the stock's suddenly strong when the free trading date is coming up.
Hopefully, it doesn't follow the same fate as Delta Resources, because you've mentioned that one before. They drilled. I don't know if you look at this hit on its own, 2.16 grams per ton of gold over almost 100 meters.
Yeah,
you'll think this is good. And then the stock drops 50%.
Well, it is good. If all the holes would have hit that number, the stock would have been up. But Delta, and maybe you can show this image. They made a discovery last year. Before last year they had very low grade over significant widths, and suddenly they hit high grade gold, and that's why Delta went from 4 cents to 40 cents. Or even 50 cents, I think. And the follow-up holes were pretty good. So the story was building. And then at some point they realized when they looked at the magnetic map that the magnetic lows, that the high-grade mineralization was kind of following the magnetic low. So they thought they had a sort of targeting tool. And towards the east, where the grade was getting better, the mag, expressed in the color, became very dark blue, meaning very low, much lower even than where they drilled the discovery. So it became sort of expectations again went up, like maybe we are going towards the high grade zone, and that's, I think, was the expectation by the market. Like, okay, this may even get better and better, and if you drill 2 grams over 100 meters. If you can do that consistently, you're building, a very significant open pit mine with the step outs they were doing. And those holes, the real step outs into the dark blue, I think they called it the deep blue zone, or whatever they refer to. I think they called it deep blue or dark blue. Those holes were disappointing. I talked to Delta, and they think the story is far from over. They drilled very shallow, and I think they are going to test it a bit deeper. But for now, the expectation is it is disappointing to the market because the high expectation was in this dark blue zone where they didn't hit the results people were hoping for. So that's the other side of the story when you are waiting for drill results.
What do you do with something like that? Sell and move on?
It's a good question. In this case, I talked to the company and I had the impression that this is indeed not over yet. But on the other hand, once you disappoint the market, it's often going to be weak for a little while until the company can really prove otherwise. And of course, companies like this have to keep financing. I think they still have money in the bank to continue their drill program. But that's something you have to monitor as an investor. At what point are they going to finance? And if they need to finance and the market is disappointed, and the market also knows that the financing is coming, that sometimes, can make it really worse and worse and worse. I had that with LithoQuest last year, now called Storm. The market knew they had to finance, then they had some disappointing results, and they went from 16 cents to 2 cents, I think. They did a rollback and it went even lower. So at some point you can be really stuck in a really weak spot as a small mining company, as a small exploration company. And Delta, I don't think Delta is in that weak spot, but right now the market will not suddenly turn positive, I think. There needs to be some positive catalyst again, and that's probably a drill result. but they have 2 projects. So I wouldn't. It's difficult. It's difficult to know what it's gonna do, but I think it's not suddenly gonna be very strong again without good follow-up results.
Got it. Okay. Any final words from Beaver Creek? Anything that I might have missed by sitting at home and being lazy?
No, I think it was a good week for everyone. It was a busy week. The weather was good. People were enjoying themselves. Many companies, many investors. My conclusion at the end was a lot of very good stories, and you always get tempted to buy stocks because you think, oh, this company really has something new, and the way they explain it makes sense. Warren Buffett has said before, I think, that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no most of the time. And I'm trying to train myself to say no most of the time and wait for something to really change, because so many companies have a good story, but a good story is often not enough, especially in a market like this. So I think being super strict in your investment criteria is important, because if you talk to many companies, there's always something nice to. There's always a nice story, and you always want to wait for a week or two and not just jump on board. That's my lesson learned.